In less than 24 hours, we will know who is the new mayor of Charleston, or we will know who will participate in a runoff. Joining me is Toby Smith. She's a local businesswoman who is, in fact, one of those people who wants to become the new leader of the city of Charleston. Toby, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get right to the questions. Flooding in the city of Charleston. We certainly have talked a lot about flooding in recent months because we have had historic floods. What is your plan to relieve the flooding problem?
Well, I think it's three pieces. First, it's maintenance. We've got to maintain what we've got. We've got to finish our drainage, and then we've got to go to a controversial place by looking at rising sea levels and climate change. And I know all those words bother some folks, so if we need to call it something else, that's fine. But something is going on, and we've got to take a look at that. The city had a green plan. 2007, a green committee. That plan was presented for information. I think it's time to pull it out now and to look at that and really move forward on that. I also think our resiliency piece needs to be strengthened, obviously, in the wake of that flooding that we recently had. So there are a number of pieces that we need to tackle and tackle fairly quickly. I am encouraged, Carolyn, that given all of that water, there's a new impetus for action. So I think this is a good time to move forward.
Speaking of moving forward, motorists in the city of Charleston generally struggle with moving forward when they are trying to get around town, and I'm talking about traffic congestion. Let's talk about your plans to relieve traffic congestion and to improve the infrastructure in the city of Charleston while maintaining the city's beauty and integrity.
A couple of pieces with that. One of the things is we've got to obviously work on roads that already need repair. We've got to finish the pitchfork. I'd love to see us tackle that flyover, which would help a great deal. I have supported completing 526 because I think we need another evacuation route. But while we're waiting, we've got to do other things. So we've got to tackle the bottlenecks that exist. The other piece is I am a big supporter of public transportation. Got to give a shout out to Carter for getting Wi-Fi on the buses. That's a great first step. Our neighbors to the north, Seneca, have electric buses. We need to go get some. Those buses were made right next door in Clemson, and I'm very curious to see if we have electric buses, how many people are really willing to give up their cars. So if we can get some cars off the road, that would ease some of the transportation issues as well. Gabe Klein did a great Peninsula Mobility Report. I want to pick that up as we're a little bit behind in some of the recommendations. And West Ashley, the WA, we're bursting at the seams over there. So I think a mobility study is probably next on the table for them as well.
Too often recently, we have seen images, video of police with citizens engaged in confrontations, fights, and sometimes even death. What is your plan for improving community-cop relations?
That's a big one, and I like Chief Mullen. One of the things I think, Carolyn, is we need to start at a younger age with our young people, encouraging and building relationships. I am a big fan of Camp Hope. Everywhere we've gone, I've talked about Camp Hope. I'd like to see that be funded. I know there are folks in the community who would consider that, and let it be a year-round program that encourages children in many areas, including building relationships with the police. I'm a big fan of this new project, Illumination, which was rolled out a couple of weeks ago, designed to foster community policing. I think that's important. And I also think we as a community have to keep the lines of communication open. It's hard to watch when things happen and we all react. It's time to be proactive, and that involves a lot of communication on the front end. But I think we need to acknowledge that some things have happened, and we need to look at those things to be sure that everyone knows that they're safe and have a right to a safe life in our community.
If Charleston Mayor Joe Riley had not made the decision to step down at this time, he very likely would have been elected again. Perhaps not, but probably.
Right.
So if he, looking at his legacy and some of the projects that he started, which ones do you believe are most critical? Which ones do you intend to, in fact, continue or finish? And what legacy of his do you find most important and want to continue?
One of the most poignant memories I have of working with Mayor Riley is the March to Columbia. My job at that time was to be the volunteer coordinator, but one day I had a brief moment to actually get out there and walk with him a little bit on the way. And that meant so much to me. I remember his bloodied feet and how exhausted he was. If he would give that much of himself, then that told me a lot about who he was. I am a big fan of the International African American Museum. I think it's time we tell our story. As tough as it is, let's look at all of it And it's a shared history. It's white and black folks together. If we can tackle that here, I think we'll do a lot of good for the rest of America. And I'm very much looking forward to shooting an email to Beyonce and Jay-Z and Miss Janet Jackson to ask them, help us pay for this. Let's give this back to our ancestors to honor their journey. Carolyn, when we think about, see, I get emotional, all those souls who made it here. And we are a product of that. And it just brings me such pride. And so I want to honor their legacy.
If you were not in the race right now for mayor of Charleston, and the remaining 5 candidates were, who among them would you vote for?
That's a tough one. We had this question once before, and none of us would admit to it. I think at this stage of the game, I would say, I have to give you an answer, right?
You do have to give me an answer.
All right. I would say Councilman Gregory. I admire him. He has been a great mentor and a great friend. He's so smart and knowledgeable about policy, about the inner workings of the city. I can also say the same about former Councilman Gregory. Representative Stavronakis, I like him a lot. He's the legislator's legislator. Ginny is Miss Innovation, and Mr. Tecklenburg has a heart of gold. So you can't go wrong with any of them. And it's been my pleasure to walk with them during this season.
All right. Well, Toby Smith, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, Carol.
All
It's
right,
good to be
thank
with you.
Thank you.